You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and I am joined, as always, by your co-hosts, Kevin and Alex. Guys, how are we doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Took a loss in the home league, which is a bummer, but quite frankly, my team crapped the bed up and down the roster, so to be expected a little bit. But other than that, a pretty lucrative weekend, and hey, my Bulldogs are still number one in the nation, so I can't complain too much.
They sure are, and Kentucky backdoor covered, so that was nice.
Don't get me started on that. Stoops is such a piece of shit for doing that.
Anyway, I eked out a win in the home league, and I cannot tell you how stressful it is to be watching for one lone defensive player to not make a tackle in the final 3 minutes while Buffalo was driving the ball. One player from Tennessee that I was just, please do not make this tackle. Please do not make this tackle because in our IDP scoring, one more tackle from this particular player who I learned his number so I could keep my eye out for him. It was Rashawna Evans, a linebacker for Tennessee. I had to learn his number really quick to figure out who I did not want to see in the bottom of the pile in the tackles, but eked out a win, so we're feeling good. Got my stuff handed to me in a couple other leagues though, so mixed results over the week.
Yeah, I hear you. I ended up pulling out a win in my home league team. It's really it's a lot like the Carolina Panthers in actual NFL, just with a little different player. If Dalvin Cook's in my lineup, I win. If he's not, I lose. Kind of like the Carolina Panthers with Christian McCaffrey. If he's in the lineup, they win. When he's not, they've lost. So similar kind of storylines going on there. Just a little parallel type of thing there.
Hey, real quick, as we go into this next week, I'm going up against the only undefeated team left in our league, in Andy's team. And I just tell you right now, he has a player on a bye still in his roster. I went through and set my roster. He's still projected to beat me by like 40 or 50 points. Like this is going to be a bad week. Let's just chalk up the L now and move on.
Well, yeah, there's unfortunately sometimes you got to do what you got to do. This week is I've heard everything from Bayageddon to
yeah, it's a humdinger. What is it? 6 teams on a bye this week? Ooh.
Yeah, and not just like a lot of Jets and Texans and Jaguars type of things where you didn't necessarily have a ton of fantasy options there. You've got a lot of fantasy options there with the Bills on bye, the Cowboys on bye, a lot of just very big fantasy names and fantasy pieces on bye this week.
If what I recall going through draft season, I remember week 7 was going to be a bear, week 9 was going to be a bear. I remember a lot of people had week 9. Kevin has just like a disassociated hand behind him there.
You like that? You got caught, honey.
That's a cool magic trick. And then I remember, I think I want to say week 13 too, without having gone and looking at it. But I remember that those were weeks that were going to be tough. She can make an appearance, right? Like
we have guests on all the time. Like
she didn't want to make an appearance that way.
That's funny. That's too good. Hey, but some good primetime games this week, right? Like the Tampa game on Thursday was really good. Sunday night was really good. I mean, it came down to overtime and just a fumble play, and then Monday night's game was really, really entertaining. And while I thought, hey, Buffalo just kicked the field goal here, I still like the call to go for it on 4th down. You don't know that your quarterback's going to lose his footing, and your 6'5", 250-pound, quarterback who I heard a stat today, he was going forward on 4th and 1 or less. He was 13 of 14 on QB sneaks heading into that. I can't remember what it was that they said that he missed on, but I like the call to go for it. I mean, the defense wasn't stopping Tennessee. I mean, Derrick Henry did not need another chance to get the football, so I like the call to go for it.
Yeah, I agree. You have to go for it there. The Bills were hemorrhaging as Derrick Henry continued to just
oh my gosh,
destroy them. And oh my gracious, like I was lucky this week. I didn't go up against Derrick Henry once in all my leagues. I did not go up against Derrick Henry, but I sure had him in a couple and dug myself out of some deep holes to turn some victories Monday nights with that last touchdown sealing it for me. So it's crazy what he's doing right now and just continuing to do really for now 2.5 seasons. So if you have Henry on your roster, kudos. If you don't have Henry on your roster, you need to be shooting for the moon because outside of week 1, he has not put up a bummer at all.
No, the consistency right now into the season is absolutely phenomenal with him. So, guys, we a very interesting type of thing. I was really hoping that Buffalo would have pulled that one out. I had like a 6-leg parlay going on that game last night, but my only miss was Buffalo on the money line, and dropped the whole thing the Smitherfield there. But it happens. That's the breaks, as they say. Guys, any other further thoughts on the games before we start hopping into some of the pines and the shines?
No, other than you sound like you're a mile away all of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Your audio just went kaput.
Is that better?
Oh yeah, helps if you're speaking to the microphone there, buddy.
Had that thing in the same spot the whole time. So anyway, there we go. Now we've figured out the audio. So
we've only been doing this for what, 3 years now?
You know what? One of these days we'll get it figured out.
Yeah.
One of these days, right? So, all righty, guys, let's go ahead and head on over, and we're going to recap the Pines from week 6. Go ahead and read off your Pines and call it out on a hit or miss.
By the way, we needed to gain some ground over here in my camp. I was doing horrifically bad through 5 weeks. So this was a good week for me in my prediction skills. I said that Miles Sanders was not going to have a great week. Tampa still has a great rushing defense, even though he still got a few yards, and really it was just like 1 or 2 drives that they finally decided to turn and hand him the football, but it was too little too late, really. So 9 carries, 56 yards. He caught 2 passes for 10 yards, didn't find the end zone. So that I will call a hit, and I got one right finally, guys.
There you go. My Pine, and we talked a little bit about this before the show started, where I must have just misplaced my Pine and my Shine and reversed the order on that. But I called for CeeDee Lamb to have a Pine kind of game there, and boy was I wrong. Like 9 receptions on 11 targets, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had the wide receiver number 1 overall type of finish on that one. So, that was a huge swing and a miss for me on that one.
Yeah, and I said Pine OBJ. I don't know. This is really kind of a push for me. We were talking about this before the show, but we're going to call it a miss just to give you guys a fighting chance as we go through the season here. So we went 5 for 8 for 79 yards. Still doesn't look very good. But then again, Baker didn't look overly great, and the Browns kind of struggled against the Cardinals, as it were. So I'll take the miss, but is really kind of a push in my mind because it was not he did not shine either. He was very meh overall.
Yeah, and that was one of those, like we did talk about that one and just went on that side there. But yeah, it was one of those that it was a somewhat usable performance, but if you had to use him, you probably weren't very happy on that one. So let's go ahead and head on over into the Shines. And the Shines for week 6, go ahead and read them off for you.
Guys, I hit on this one too. So 2 for 2 for the first time, I think, all season. Only took 6 weeks to get going here. Naji Harris, he had 24 carries, 81 yards, 6 catches, 46 yards through the air, and a touchdown. I will call that a hit. That was a heck of a performance by Naji, and the Steelers ended up needing every single bit of it to pull out that win.
Yeah, mine was a miss. I had Javonte Williams, who I thought was going to have a big game, and definitely didn't. 11 carries, 53 yards, caught three of three, and 15 yards on the air side of things.
Mine was Jacoby Myers. I missed on this one as well. He is 5 for 6, so efficient, but only 44 yards, and really Kendrick Bourne was kind of the shining receiver catching that 75-yarder late in the game. So Jacoby Myers did not do nearly as much against the Cowboys defense as I thought he would have.
Right. Yeah, Kendrick Bourne, if you played him in like DFS, that was a pretty sneaky, good little play there that went that way. But guys, any other thoughts on the pines and the shines before we head over into the clutches and not so muches?
I'm digging myself out of the hole. 4-8 now. I've hit on 4, missed on 8.
I'm going to start taking Alex-type cupcake picks.
What are you talking about?
What do you mean, what am I talking about?
I got some good ones for you.
Miles Sanders as a pine? There you go.
Hey, you asked Derek about how effective that is.
It worked for him this year when he took the cupcake last week.
That's true.
Exactly. Although at this point, when you call for a pine 2 weeks in a row, I don't know that you can further call that as a pine. That's just
we may need to retire him from consideration.
One of those he's going to have to put up a game before you can use Miles Sanders as a pine again type of thing. I think we're all agreed upon that one. So 2 weeks in a row, get you retired from the list. There you go. So right now the season standings on that one, Alex improved to a 4-8. I'm sitting at 5-7, and Kevin's still sitting at the top of the heap there. King of the mountain, 8-4 right now.
Really, 8-3-1.
Yeah, I mean that's what, we'll change it there. We'll change it.
It's all good. Y'all don't need to do me any favors. I'll own it.
8-3-1. We'll give it to you. It's in the show doc now. It counts.
Breaking news. I'm getting some horse crap trade offers right now.
Why am I not surprised?
Absolutely terrible. So I will redact the names as to not embarrass any potential listener, but this is a bad trade. Damien Williams, Antonio Gibson for Myles Gaskin and Jalen Reagor. What the hell am I going to do with Myles Gaskin, who the Dolphins, for all intents and purposes, has decided does not exist, and Jalen Reagor, who is good for drawing penalty yards, and outside of that puts up goose eggs? Like, what a horse crap offer. Decline.
First off, Myles Gaskin has been dog crap until I said, hey, you need to sit Myles Gaskin 2 weeks ago, and then he went off. So
to be fair, both of these were suggested by IBM Watson. Like, screw you. Like, ESPN, pull your head out of your ass. Like, this is terrible.
Oh, you got to love it. Got to love it. Let's go ahead and head on over into the clutches and the not so muches. So, guys, who came in clutch for your fantasy team week 6 and who was not so much?
I'm gonna beat you to it. I'm gonna claim Derrick Henry in all my various leagues that I had him in, who really pulled me out of a hole here. Did not have much success in home league, so I'm deferring to the others. But I mean, hell, anywhere scoring system wise, anywhere between 33 and 45 fantasy points in general terms. I know in our league he went for more than that just because of our scoring system. But holy crap! Like, this is reminiscent of McCaffrey in 19, and he's doing it without receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
do you know what do you know who it is? It's Priest Holmes.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a throwback there to where it was. Yeah,
I want to compare his numbers to like what Marshall Faulk was scoring back in, when was that, 2007?
Maybe even earlier than that. But yeah,
it might have been earlier than that. But I want to compare him to that Marshall Faulk MVP season and see how these stack up, because he's putting out numbers that we have not seen in a long, long time. Because even when Adrian Peterson was rolling like this, he wasn't always getting the touchdowns in that Vikings offense to go along with it. He'd put up yards and he'd have the volume, but he wasn't always getting the touchdowns. Henry's breaking off a 50-plus yarder every game.
Yeah.
Like, outside of week 1, he's had a run longer than 40 yards every single game. Like, I do not know what the NFL record is for continuous games with that long of a rushing attempt, but I'd like to try and find out so I can sound cool here because I've never seen anything like this.
It's a lot of fun to watch. My clutch performer, which was really everybody up and down my roster, save for the two that I'm going to mention in my not so much, but Darrell Williams, guys, from Kansas City. That was a late ad, and it ended up being a very good play because he had 21 carries. He only had 62 yards, so wasn't there for the yardage, but he did find the end zone twice, and that was very clutch performance there. Overshot, his projections, added a couple receiving yards too on 3 catches, 27 receiving yards. So that was a very, very unforeseen. I kind of plugged him in there because needed some help with Saquon going out, and that was a very helpful performance.
Absolutely. I had quite a few different clutches on that one. I in the home league I had the CD and the Dak stack, which put up a ton of points for me. So definitely some clutch performances there. But a guy that I wanted to touch on was a guy that I picked up late on the waivers, looking at it from a standpoint of nobody was really talking about this guy, with David Montgomery being on the IR and with Damien Williams having been on the COVID reserve list. And the funny thing is, when you look back the week before, Khalil Herbert actually out-touched Damien Williams in carries the week before on that one. So he got some good usage and definitely came up clutch there on that roster that needed some help with some buys and some injuries going on there to put up and outperform the projections and finish with a pretty darn good week. So Khalil Herbert's definitely in that mention for me as well.
I have an honorable mention, and I want to give a shout out to whoever it was on the show last week that was like, "Hey, is Seals Jones a sneaky good tight end play?" Thank you, because I picked him up, and that was very beneficial for me. It's the first time all season that I've had like actual quality from my tight end position. So thank you to whoever was commenting that last week. I don't remember who you were, but I owe you one. Thank you.
That's awesome. All righty, guys. So the not so much, it's time for that. Who was not so much for your fantasy roster?
Oh, that's one.
That's one.
I actually did it. All my guys, Sam Darnold, DJ Moore, for whatever reason, Justin Jefferson disappeared and Adam Thielen went off. TJ Hawkinson put up kind of another stinker. Let's see. I think the only person who outperformed their projection was Aaron Jones got there because of a touchdown, and Tom Brady barely got there, even though he didn't break 300 yards and didn't throw 4 touchdowns like I predicted. So my whole roster kind of sucked this week.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, and I was fortunate enough to pick up a win, but I had a lot of that too. So my not so much performance actually was my clutch performance in week 5, and that was Justin Herbert and Mike Williams. That stack, which went crazy in the Cleveland game, did nothing against Baltimore. Herbert was bad, only had 1 touchdown, only got 195 passing yards. Like, that's insane that he was limited that much. And then Mike Williams, he had 2 catches for 27 yards. That's it.
Yeah, the Chargers
brutal.
Crippled fantasy rosters this week. I mean, because you've been starting all these guys. They've been finding ways, right? Herbert, Eckler, Keenan Allen, who was probably the most serviceable, and even at that didn't have a great game. Mike Williams, and even Jared Cook, you've been able to stream in places if you're tight end starved, and he's been kind of doing just enough to be relevant. All of them, just big fat stinkers.
Yeah, absolutely. My not so much was Michael Pittman, who had come off a couple of really good games, and then T.Y. Hilton shows up, and the yardage goes a T.Y. Hilton way. You saw a giant touchdown reception from Paris Campbell on a 51-yarder, and Michael Pittman goes two receptions, 3 targets for 35 yards, and really did not make much noise out of that flex position. So that was my not so much. Guys, any other thoughts on this one?
I I'd also like to throw Taylor Heineke in there too. I had him. Both my quarterbacks this week were just garbage. The fact that I'm walking out with a win in the home league after the performances, I think, Kevin, just like you, just about everybody up and down underperformed from their projections. And so Heineke had a bad game. Herbert had a bad game. I think maybe it's a good thing for people that the Chargers are on a bye this week, because there might be some sell-offs or some unreasonable roster moves that are made in response to last week's performance.
Yeah, not pretty. And if your team is still struggling and you're sitting at 1-5 or anything like that, it's panic time. Like, you got to start making moves. It is now past the time of wait and see, and you're into the heart of the season. So you're forced to make moves, whether it's blowing your fab on a guy in free agency, if you have short benches and need to pick up a game changer, or trying to get real creative with some trades and improving your roster in any way possible.
I mean, you think about it, we're basically past the halfway point for fantasy regular seasons. Week 13 is when most of these playoffs, or that's the last week of the final week of the regular season in fantasy. We're past halfway at this point, or we're getting to it. So it's time to really, if you need to swing for the fences, now's the time.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and, speaking of fab, let's go ahead and look at some of these waiver pickups there. The website is fighting me a little bit, so we're going to do this an old-fashioned way, where we've got the waiver wire order that is up there once it decides to load up and work again. But we'll start with the quarterbacks, and right now ranked on the QBs, streaming type of purposes here. You got Jameis, Tua, Trey Lance, Mac Jones there as the 1, 2, 3, 4. What are your thoughts on that order?
I would pay attention to what's going on in Cleveland, because if Baker can't go, Case Keenum all of a sudden joins that list. Not that that's going to be great, but Case Keenum definitely joins that list if Baker can't go. And I know they're going to play it close to the chest, very close to the vest. And we'll get into talking about that game in a little bit, but keep Case Keenum. If you are in a pinch, or if you have Baker Mayfield and you're in a league where there's not a lot of quarterback help available, and you have Baker, keep Case Keenum in mind and pay attention to what's coming out of Cleveland, because you may need to make a last-minute move. And unfortunately, that's a Thursday night game, so you'll be married to that move through the weekend. But if you're in a pinch, that's who I would keep your eye on. Obviously, with those other guys, if Tua's available, I think you'd rather go that route, to fill in for Baker. I'm not sure what the Trey Lance situation is going to be if Garoppolo's, coming back. That's some different stuff. Keep in mind, Trey Lance also had an injury that he was dealing with over the bye week. So I think, the more in tune you are with some of these local reports that are coming out, the better off you're going to be, right? Like that's kind of obvious, but I would say that Case Keenum could be a stopgap for this week, because there are so many good players on bye, and who knows if Baker's going to go.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I'm going to go 2-1, Winston 2 in that scenario. Trey Lance, you like the upside, right? Like, you want Trey Lance to go. This is a guy that people were thinking would probably pop around this time. With him being dinged up and Garoppolo coming back, who knows? Like, I have him stashed on a couple rosters, but he's not a guy that I'm looking to start this week or even next. So kind of laying that round. A guy for a matchup this week, if you're quarterback starved, is Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill has a really good matchup this week. He hasn't really hit that top 12 performance that everybody drafted him at. So in some leagues, he's been dropped, and now he's part of the quarterback streaming shuffle. So if you're frustrated by Daniel Jones and you don't like the fact that the Giants can't get their crap together, or for whatever reason, I shouldn't say whatever reason, but if you had like a Baker or a Jared Goff and you're ready to kind of toss them aside, if Ryan Tannehill's up there, he's worth taking a fly on, especially this week. I like his matchup a lot.
Absolutely. I like that. I like what you guys are putting out there. As far as, adding Case Keenum to the list right there, Alex, like what are you looking at as far as that goes? Like what
it's
order
only
would you
if Baker can't go. It's only if Baker can't go. Then to me, I still think that Tua and Jameis are 1 and 2 if they're available. But if Baker can't go and you're in a pinch, Keenum is an option.
Okay. So real quick, we got a question coming in, but I want to come back to that one. So, question coming in from Twitter, and that is, come back here. Question. There we go. So Humboldt T. Parker on Twitter is asking, what do you guys think about Rashad Penny?
I think he's going to get hurt again.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So the Seahawks, I mean, they've got something there with Alex Collins, right? And maybe this is me being selfish because I've got Alex Collins in a few leagues, and he's been a nice addition to have. So, yeah, how valuable is Rashad Penny? Well, I mean, Alex Collins has proven to be pretty good, and he worked with Geno, and he's going to have to work with Geno for the next couple weeks at least. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd take that flyer on it. I know that they probably want to get him involved, but not having read too much on to, what's going on with him. I do know he's often injured. But I mean, Collins has been pretty good. So maybe I'm just trying to speak into existence to let them keep feeding Alex Collins so I don't have to scramble to find another running back to fill on several rosters.
Right. But be careful with Alex Collins. He did get that late game injury. Looks like he's dealing with like a hip glute type of thing, where we may see some more DJ Moore this type of week there as well. So, I'm kind of right there echoing what Alex is going to say, where I think that the Seahawks may have seen their run with what they're going to do there. And Humboldt teaches Parker, I got you where you're saying that Collins is hurt. You're right. He is talking about that glute hip injury there. Still not a 100% yet on what that's going to look like, whether you're going to see a lot of DJ Dallas type of run, but I don't know that you're going to see much in the way of Rashad Penny going forward. Another question coming in here from the YouTube. Bambo on YouTube. In half PPR, I was offered Locket and Myers for Keenan. I'm really scared on this one. I have no idea. I'm keeping Keenan Allen in that one.
Yeah, I think the Keenan Allen side's where I want to be. We don't really know how long Russ is going to be out. Jacoby Myers has had instances where he pops, and then like last week where he was supposed to, he doesn't. Myers also I think he officially holds the record for number of passes caught without scoring a touchdown. So for whatever reason, he is adverse to the end zone, which sucks because those 6 points help you a lot, and you need those when you're getting into this time of the season. So, yes, Keenan Allen's production is slightly down, but they're coming into a bye week. And I think that they realize that they need to get him going too. Like, it's awesome that Mike Williams has been blowing up, but Keenan Allen serves a vital role on this team. And I do think you'll see that kind of balance out here going through the back half of the season. Absolutely.
And so sorry, I had another comment coming in there. Bambo, if it helps you out, Humboldt T. Parker on Twitter is telling you don't do it. And for everybody watching on Twitter, unfortunately, we don't have the ability to put your comments up here on screen like we do on both YouTube and Facebook. So if you guys want to get your comments up here on screen, do us a favor, hop over there on the YouTube channel, click that subscribe button, ring that little bell, and we can get your comments up here on screen as well. So, I think that's kind of where we're at there. So looking at that as well, right? So Alex, kind of going back to that question, because you bring up a really kind of an interesting topic there as far as like some of the Thursday night and how much that could impact that. So with it being, if say right now Baker is ruled out 100%, not going to play the game, right? Like how you brought up Case Keenum, how confident are you in putting him in a roster spot for you?
Not at all. I mean, I don't trust anybody playing on Thursday night. I'm adverse to Thursday night games anyways, unless it's, they're must plays. But to me, there's a lot, I hate Thursday night. I hate that the NFL puts fantasy football players in this bind to have to figure it out. I got stuck, unfortunately, because I'll give you this is real world reason why I hate Thursday night games. As I'm putting together my roster on Thursday evening before that game kicks, I'm looking and I'm seeing, CMC is on track to play, right? That's all we had seen is that CMC was on track to come back off of IR. So I think, okay, well, I will take Chuba Hubbard out of my lineup because with CMC back, Hubbard's not going to get the run that he's been getting, right? So I take Chuba Hubbard out of my lineup. Well, I think if I'm not going to have Chuba Hubbard in the lineup, I need to have somebody in this flex spot. I've got Gio Bernard on my roster. It's not the best, but it's probably going to be better than whatever Chuba Hubbard puts up if CMC is back. So I get stuck with the 2 points that I get from Gio Bernard, only to see Friday or Saturday morning, CMC's on IR for a longer period of time. Right. Chuba Hubbard's still going to get some run. So that's why I hate Thursday night games. This Thursday night game I especially don't like just because there's too many question marks on Cleveland's side. The Broncos are just god awful at the moment. And when I say at the moment, I mean for the last 3 weeks and hell for the last 5 years since we won the Super Bowl. So this Thursday night game, I'm very adverse to playing anybody that's in it, especially with all of the injuries that Cleveland's got going. And who knows, with the shoulder injury, like this is a recurring theme for Baker. So like he heard it earlier in the year and then it popped out again last week. So can he play? How effective can he play? And will he get the start only to get shelved, once Von Miller makes his acquaintance in the first quarter? Like
that would require Von Miller to get any type of pressure on the quarterback.
Fair enough.
Sorry, bitter Bronco fan here.
You should be. We all should be. But that to me, like this Thursday night thing. So, I mean, pay attention. You have to pay attention to what that injury report says, and they may not even let you know until the actives, inactives come out. What is that? 2 hours before kickoff, 3 hours before kickoff, before
90
they have
minutes.
to declare. Yeah.
90 minutes
before they have to declare their actives and inactives. And they may even keep Baker active just to, smoke and mirrors and let Keenum roll out there and start the game. So I think there's some gamesmanship that's going to be played this week, but I would say to just keep your eye on it. And if you're in a pinch and you've got Baker, and you don't have a backup, Keenum, I mean, it is better than no points. It might not be many points, but it's better than no points.
There you go. All righty. Another question coming in. This one on YouTube, Cash's Stylist. Cash, welcome back in. Hey, guys, back with the injury update. Julio, Kadarius, Tony, Monty, Barkley, Alex Collins, Odell, Dawson Knox, and Judy.
Your IR is like a really good fantasy football team.
Yeah, well, he chimed in a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how he was cursed and all that. And that's what he said is that, we were joking about that earlier, but now he's getting kind of concerned.
Knox, I wouldn't worry about that, the bye week. Judy's going to be coming back. He was targeting this week, but I think they're going for the longer break. So Judy should be back next week. Knox should be back next week. Tony is doubtful, so Alex, I'm going to tell him you can't use him later on in the segment. You need to find someone else.
I'll pick a different one.
So he may sit this one and then come back. Monty's been on. I haven't heard an update on Monty. And
I think
Barkley,
he's still got 1 or 2 more weeks on Monty.
Yeah, and Barkley's still week to week. So, yes, it's a big name. But a couple of these guys between bye weeks and what you're looking at, you should really only be looking at 1 or 2 more weeks. So if you're still if you're still getting through your league and are still competitive, I don't know that you need to completely panic yet, but I'd definitely be combing the waiver wire for guys that can help you in the short term.
Right. Let's go ahead and head back over to the waiver wire. Guys, appreciate all the questions and comments. If you have those, throw them out there. We like interacting with y'all and answering any questions, things like that.
I have another crappy trade alert. I just got sent this in a dynasty league. Mike Gesicki and their 2022 third rounder for both of my 2022 first rounders.
Well,
I just this isn't even close, guys. Like, decline. Like, I don't even know that I can honor a counter there. Like, it's just not worth it. So we're just going to decline and move on. But crappy trades, guys. Crappy trades.
Gotcha. All righty, let's go ahead and hit up the running backs, and we'll do as far as like the running backs go. Throw a couple of names out there. You tell me if you're really willing to spend any fab on them, that kind of thing. So, Ernest Johnson, Kenyon Drake, Marlon Mack, Ramondre Stevens, Demetric Felton, Chris Evans. What are your thoughts on any of those?
I would spend just a little bit of fab on Marlon Mack as more and more, and I'm talking like $3-4. As more and more of these running backs get hurt, the trade deadline's in 2 weeks, I believe, something like that. There's still a good chance Marlon Mack gets moved, and if he comes to a situation where a running back deprived team, almost like Seattle is right now, he could come in and see significant volume right away, and you get him for peanuts. So he's the guy I'm looking at. Felton, and Felton's had like 3 touches all year long. Like, he's a special teams guy. Danis Johnson, I mean, he's probably going to see most of the carries against the Broncos, but I don't know if I really want to toss out a third string running back. And yes, it's bye week. So if you're in a pinch, yeah. I mean, he's going to be a starting running back this week. So he definitely has top 24 upside. So he's a guy that if you're in a big pinch, he's worth playing this week too.
All right, guys. Coach Craig Sports chiming in. What's up, fellas? Coach Craig, good to see you in the chat and welcome in. Alex, any other thoughts on some of those running backs as far as some fab, things like that go?
Nah, I mean, yeah, what Kevin said is where I'm at too. I mean, if you're hurting, take a flyer, but don't blow the bank on any of these dudes.
Right. Ernest Johnson is probably the biggest go get there. And that's one of those that I'm leery of that one again, because of the fact that I don't necessarily want to start him if I don't have to on a Thursday night game, like we already just discussed. And I still remember spending up on Ernest Johnson a little bit last year and having nothing to show for that one. Kind of like Tyson Williams a little bit this year for me. But another question coming in from Cassius Silas on YouTube. So he's saying that he's getting by with some of those injuries, but he has an interesting question for us. How do y'all do your waivers? Is it the worst loser of the week gets first waiver, or worst team overall? Commissioner, the floor is yours.
So we used to, for years and years and years, do reverse order of standings. And that was kind of the standard waiver procedure we went through. This year, we have since switched in the home league over to a fab budget, which, if you're not familiar with that, it gives each team a pot of money, whatever it is, $100, $200, $1,000. It really doesn't matter what it's set at, because everyone starts the same. And then you can go in and you blind bid on these players. And so that way teams 1 through however many you have in your league, 10, 12, 14, 16, whatever it is, have a equal opportunity to bring said player onto their roster. It just matters how much fab they want to spend. And then some reset every night like that, and then some just do it the day of. Like if your waivers clear Wednesday, and after you're done with that, then it's just open season. So that part of it kind of varies depending on league. But right now we switched over to a fab budget, and I like it. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm glad we did it just because it at least brings everybody the opportunity to go get the player they want and or need for whatever their roster looks like at the moment.
Right. And so, one other thing to kind of touch on there too, like, so say for instance, in that one, that two players bid the exact same amount on that one, then it defaults back into a waiver priority there. And that waiver priority is still based on a worse record, things like that. So it's giving that team that's, with the worst record, the opportunity to go out and get that. And then that fab for anybody that's wondering what this acronym is, it just stands for free agent acquisition budget is all that stands for and means. Alex, any other thoughts on as far as the waiver wires and the fab?
Yeah, I've been a part of a number of different leagues that do things a number of different ways. There is an argument to be made for reverse standings, that they get first crack at things because it kind of helps level the playing field. There's an argument to be made for fab in that everybody gets an equal shot. It's just, what are you willing to spend? And then there's a little more strategy involved in that, you have to balance your budget basically throughout the course of a season. And if you go hard after week one, well, then you don't get to replace some of those guys that get hurt later on down the line. So there's more strategy involved with the fab, which I like. I like the strategy part of it because really, what this game is a bunch of, well, I think this is going to happen. And then you actually have no absolute control over what's going on throughout the course of the week of
right.
fantasy from Thursday through Sunday or Monday night. You have absolutely no control over what's going on. So this is a little way to have a little bit of control back with how much that you want to spend. What I do like, and this is something that I think a lot of teams or a lot of leagues should adopt, and this is one that Kevin brought in, especially in this era of guys can test positive for COVID and then they're out all of a sudden, is to have a kind of the weekly or the daily updates on waiver wires that you can, that doesn't have to clear through one day. So, in our league now, after Wednesday, it's pretty much open season on these guys because you got to fill holes, sometimes when these guys test positive and then they're ruled out for the game. So I do like that the ability to go and claim guys, whenever you see fit. Is really good, but the fab budget is I think the better way to go about doing things.
Yep. I like it, guys. Any other thoughts on any of the waiver wire free agent acquisition budgets, anything like that there? Alrighty. We'll kind of rapid fire here a little bit some of the rest of the waiver wire because some of this is going to be if you've got players, a lot of your start sitch decisions are going to be kind of made for you based on just who's available, not
bye weeks. Yeah.
Not on a bye week and not hurt type of thing. So that being the case, any wide receivers that you want to throw out there as far as, somebody you're targeting for a waiver wire, somebody that you should be looking at to potentially go get.
I think the biggest thing is pay attention to who guys are frustrated with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, there was I was listening to a show earlier and someone was talking about, they were sick and tired of Brandon Ayuk. I'm, just going to drop him and go grab Kadarius Toney, right? Well, if they did that, Brandon Ayuk, yes, has been struggling, but again, the Niners are going into their bye week, or excuse me, just came out of their bye week, just coming out of their bye week. Like, hope is not lost with Brandon Ayuk, and yes, he hasn't performed to the ADP that you drafted him in, but the talent is still there. And if you are starved at receiver, something like that could really help you. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been seeing a lot of targets in Detroit lately. So there's nothing wrong with that. The Detroit offense is putrid. So if you're not in a PPR league, I would not go after him. But if you are, I mean, it's 6 points a week, right? He's getting about 6 catches a week. Get your yardage bonuses on top of that. So, I mean, he could hit 12 points for you. And if you're needing to start a wide receiver in your flex spot, that's not a bad idea either. Keep an eye out for Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton. Kadarius Toney's out now. Galladay's out now. They have to throw the ball to somebody in New York, guys, and I get it. Darius Slayton is not necessarily attractive, but Sterling Shepard saw a big number of targets before he went down with that hamstring injury. So Sterling Shepard's not a bad guy to pick up, and he's actually a little bit more than a flex play, and at least has some week in and week out value. So receivers deep enough that it's worth a shot. Donovan Peoples-Jones, he had a great game last week. Honestly, guys, I expect him to try and do the same thing this week. The Broncos cannot get their safeties deep enough right now. They've been burned 3 games in a row over the top, and they are not communicating. They're not reading the route, or they're not, whether it's they're not disguising their coverage or they're not communicating between the defensive backs, whatever it is. But Deontay Johnson got behind him. Hollywood Brown got behind him. Henry Ruggs got behind him. Like, Donovan Peoples-Jones is the deep threat there in Cleveland. Case Keenum or Baker Mayfield, they're going to take a couple shots. So if you're starved at receiver, not a terrible option because of the upside that can come along with it. So whether it's injuries, whether it's bye weeks, whether you're playing the top team in your league and you need a ball-out performance from some random guys to help give you a shot, that's a guy that can help you do it. So that's kind of how I'm looking at receivers, really all positions, but specifically receivers because they seem to have the most big play potential week in and week out. Is what's the defense doing that they're going up against? What are the opportunities looking like? And what have they been doing the past 2-3 weeks with those opportunities to possibly get ahead of the target share buzz and maybe be able to steal a guy that none of us are even thinking about right now, that the back half of the season could be a driving force in getting you to the playoffs after you limp along the first half.
Right. I like it. Alex, any other thoughts on that one? Okay. I like it. Rashad Bateman, another guy to potentially look at there, but Donovan Peoples-Jones is a guy that I was going to bring up if you didn't mention him. Kevin, definitely liking that one. Also wanted to point out too that was a terrific call you had on the Friday show heading into the games when we were breaking down that Broncos Raiders matchup, calling the long touchdown by Henry Ruggs III on that one. So
I was frustrated I got that right.
I'm sure. All righty. Another question coming in from YouTube. Ryan on YouTube is asking Swift and Thielen for Eckler. He's good at wide receiver. He has Tony, Ridley, Cooks, and Debo. His other RBs are CMC, Jacobs, and Chuba in a 12-man full PPR. What are your thoughts here? Yeah,
as good as Swift has been, you're probably selling Thielen high right now, which is a good place to do that. So I'm all about Austin Eckler. We talked about that before the season. I think I had, he has top 5 potential all over him before the season. And now that we've seen how they're using him, the Chargers don't have anybody else to give the ball to in the backfield, right? Like Roundtree's been hurt. Justin Jackson's been completely underwhelming. And so it's really Eckler or they're throwing it to, one of the tight ends or wide receivers. So I'm all for it. You're getting a better offense, better high end for touchdowns. He's not in a timeshare like Swift is. So I think I'm good there because it also helps you absorb the CMC injury. And if McCaffrey can get back and healthy, being able to start McCaffrey and Eckler in the same backfield going down the stretch of the season, you are going to be a wrecking ball. So I like the move.
No. Yeah, and I'm just making sure that Ryan, if you've got Eckler, hang on to Eckler. But if you're trying to acquire Eckler, I think that you're probably in the ballpark with Swift and Thielen, kind of going after that trade offer there. All righty, guys, let's go ahead and head on over. We've still got the Thursday night game to break down before we get into our pines and shines for week 7 and get into some of our prop stuff here. So let's go ahead and head on over into the week 7 Thursday night game. The Denver Broncos, the hometown team, goes to Cleveland to play the Browns. Browns favored by 3. The over-under on this one is 42.5. What are your thoughts on this one?
Give me the Broncos +3. I don't know that they win. If Baker doesn't play, I think the Broncos' shot is much better. But I also think that this game will set the sport of football back by about 25 years, and we will need like a good college Saturday to wipe our minds from what we see on Thursday. So give me the under.
I'm trying to see how the Browns win this game. And I get the Broncos are a bad football team right now for sure, but no Nick Chubb, no Kareem Hunt,
potentially no Baker,
no Jarvis Landry, potentially no Baker. Beckham didn't practice today. I mean, it's going to be tough. They're going to be rolling out a lot of 2 tight end sets because they have, they have Austin Hooper, they have David Njoku. They also have Harrison Bryant. Is that their third tight end? So you might see some 3 tight end sets where they're splitting out wide. You have Donovan Peoples-Jones and Rashard Higgins are kind of the wide receivers there. If Odell can't go, like, there's just so many injury factors with Cleveland, but the Broncos are so bad right now. Like it's just kind of a toss-up. I'm going to take the Broncos. I'm going to take the over because 42 is just so low. Like I could see 24-20, something like that, which just gets you to the over. Something like that. The Broncos defense has not been stellar lately, but Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick have been well with the opportunities they received as long as Bridgewater gets the ball out of his hands. So I think I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to take the Broncos and the over.
You made both Alex and I's eyebrows raise there a little bit. Because
I said over, because I said Broncos.
Over. The over. This is 17-14 written all over it.
This is 7-3 written all over it.
Also that.
Oh, come on now.
So, yeah, I don't know that either team is going to score 20 points in this one, so I'm going to take the under on it. I do think that the Browns, even banged up, things like that, and maybe this is me just trying to will a Broncos victory into existence here by claiming that the Browns are going to cover on this one. I just don't see, even with a banged up Browns team, as poorly as the Broncos have looked the last 3 weeks, I don't know that there's a way that they're going to be able to keep up with this one. So I'm going to take the Browns. I'm going to take the under, and I'll take the contrarian point of view across that one there. So there's that one for you. Guys, if you do have any questions or comments, throw them out there in the chat. We love chatting with y'all and interacting with y'all. Let's go ahead and head on over into the Pines and the Shines for week 7. Who you got for your Pines?
So my Pine for week number 7 is going to be Allen Robinson. His matchup looks good. Going up against Tampa Bay and their weak secondary, but the front 4 of Tampa Bay puts a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, and we have not seen Justin Fields handle that very well yet. So I do think it's going to be another subpar performance for Allen Robinson, and part of this might be hoping that I jinx it a little bit because I have Allen Robinson in a lot of leagues that I'm forced to start him this week because of bye weeks and injuries. So I need him to have a big week, but I'm not expecting it.
All right. My Pine is, it was Kadarius Toney, but apparently I need to read the injury reports a little bit more. He's doubtful, so if he does play, don't play him. But then I'll go even a little bit further, guys. I will throw Kenny Golladay. Again, he's questionable. Darius Slayton, he's questionable. Just any one of those 3. I just do not see the Giants being able to move the football against Carolina with Saquon kind of iffy. I'm averse to picking, if I have any Giants players, I'm averse to going against it. Carolina has the second best defense against the pass this year. They're giving up the second least amount of yards against the pass. Daniel Jones, he hasn't looked great. And so I'm taking those three. And, I'll throw Sterling Shepard in there too, if you want. But Giants wide receivers, I think, are not the play this week.
Alrighty. So I was going to say at that point, like, you just got to pick an entire team and go for it. So I like it. Thank you for adding that one in there. My pine is going to be Tyler Lockett going up against the New Orleans Saints there. Geno's not looking his way. Geno's looking towards DK Metcalf. Plus, anybody watching that game looked like they struggled there a little bit. New Orleans has been giving up the third most passing points third most points allowed to opposing wide receivers. So, this one here is the matchup looks really good, but Seattle may be without Alex Collins. Chris Carson is on the IR. They're going to have a hard time, I believe, establishing the run, which is going to help Geno out and be able to play off of that little play action pass, things like that to help open some things up there. So that being the case, I am looking to pivot off of Tyler Lockett anywhere and everywhere that I can. Guys, let's go ahead and head straight on over into the shines. Who is your shine for week 7?
So my shine, I am going back to the well of who screwed me this week. And Sam Darnold has done very well against bad defenses this year. And they play a bad defense in the New York Football Giants. So I expect Sam Darnold and DJ Moore, for that matter, to bounce back in a big way. So Sam Darnold is going to be my shine of the week.
My shine is a guy who had a really great performance 2 weeks ago. And I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts from Atlanta. I know that he was the beneficiary of Atlanta missing a couple of their big pass catchers, but now that we've seen what he can do, I'll take Kyle Pitts. Miami's got the 4th worst pass defense in the NFL right now, so Matt Ryan can feast, and hopefully he feasts with Kyle Pitts.
I like it, but you and I are going to have an interesting shine here because I think that entire Falcons offense there is going to show up in a big way. I've got Cordell Patterson being my shine of the week. Right now, Miami is allowing the most points to opposing running backs and the second most points allowed to wide receivers. So, what do you do with a guy like Cordell Patterson that plays both on occasion? Well, he's on a prime matchup either way to slice it there. And I think you're going to see him absolutely feast in this one and have a very, very, very good game. Coach Craig Sports chiming in saying, please don't say Penny. I think that's in reference to when I was talking about Seattle and all of that. Don't worry, Coach Craig. We already talked about Rashad Penny and what not to do with him and what to do with him earlier on in the show, which I think the consensus was just leave him on the bench and let it be that way. So, guys, any further thoughts on some of the pines and shines before we get on over into the props?
We need another good week. They got to come back.
Yep, you had a good week last week, so you hit on your one. But let's go ahead and talk about that. If you're looking for a new way to play some DFS, Thrive Fantasy app is the way to do it. You can download the Thrive Fantasy app today on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. And if you use the promo code GOBFF, you can get a deposit match up to about $25 on that one. So, again, that code is GOBFF, and you can chime in. You can hop in there, and you can play some of this kind of stuff like we do. And, Coach Craig, that's funny. Rashad Penny, long dead. I think that that would be a consensus there. Absolutely. All righty. So, guys, who did you have on your over, your under, your player props here going into week 7? By the way, Alex won his prop last week, managed to gain some points there. So right now the standings are, I'm at 330 points. Alex is at 295 and Kevin is at 210. Heading to week 7 here. What you got?
All right, I'll go first here. So I, as much as I think that this game is going to set back the sport of football for a while. I do think that Teddy's going to be able to dink and dunk his way around the field, but I don't think that leads to too many scores. So I'm going to go Teddy Bridgewater over 24.5 completions, and that'll net me 110 points if I get that right. The under was only 90 points, so I'm swinging here.
There you go. So I've got Donovan People-Jones over 24.5 receiving yards. We already touched on that one a little bit when we were breaking down that one. I think that he's going to have a pretty decent game and a big game. It wouldn't surprise me if he manages to hit that yardage total on one single catch in this one. That one's also worth 100 points there. Kevin, what do you got?
I took Cortland Sutton over 65.5 receiving yards. Back-to-back strong performances by Cortland. Judy's still not there, and I think Teddy's realizing if they can connect on one of these deep balls, lights out, right? Like they were able to do it against the Steelers, which put Sutton over 100 yards. They had their opportunities against the Raiders. Part of it were not great passes. Maybe Sutton should have had at least one of those, but I think that trend continues here as far as him trying to feed Sutton down the field. So I'm taking Sutton over 65.5.
I like it. Guys, any other thoughts here on the Thrive Fantasy app props? All righty. Well, guys, I do believe that that's going to take us down here to the end of it. The Fantasy Futurist podcast is chiming in. Sup all on the YouTube. Welcome in. Good to see you tuning in there, Fantasy Futurist. What's up, Alex?
I have a discussion point. Is Thursday Vic Fangio's last game as the head coach for the Denver Broncos?
No.
Next question.
All right. Well, discussion over then.
As much as no, they're not to that point yet. I think because of the Broncos front office drama and the ownership stuff that's still going on, I think right. So I think Fangio's pretty well set here for a little while, at least until we can kind of get some more clarity on what's going on with the ownership stuff. He got the bugaboo of September off of his back, and now they're falling back into some old habits. So ultimately, it's some coordinators' heads might roll, right? If they put up another stinker on defense, I could see him, changing out his defensive coordinator and trying to do some things to save his skin a little bit. But Fangio will still have a job come week 8.
At the end of the season, I think it's a different story. But awesome. So question coming in here. Brian on YouTube. Welcome in, Brian. Thanks for chiming in and answering the question. After a few weeks of trying to move Allen Robinson, a second-round pick, he packaged him with Chuba today for a buy low, scary Terry. I like the move.
Yeah. I like it. McLaurin has the upside. And Fitzmagic's not out for the season, right? Like you could see him come back and kind of shake things up a bit here on the back end as he starts to bomb it down the field. So I like it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Even still, Heineke's had some good games with Terry McLaurin. I think they just, they've lost a little something, but that's easy to get back. The moving of Allen Robinson, that's rough that you wasted a second rounder on him. But to package him with Chuba, again, Chuba's only as good as long as CMC's out for right now. I mean, Chuba might be a viable option years from now, but as in the immediate term, Chuba's only going to get run when CMC is not playing, and it looks like CMC is not going to play for a while. So I guess that feels like a good kind of all around. I mean, if somebody needs running back help in the immediacy, it's a good deal for them to pick up Chuba, and that's good for you to get McLaurin.
Yep, I like it. Another question coming in on YouTube from Mark. Would you start Ernest Johnson or Damien Harris? For me, it's Damien Harris.
Yeah, I'm not touching anybody in this Thursday game.
Yeah, probably Damien Harris. I mean, the Patriots seem to still have the Jets number. They picked Zach Wilson off 4 times when they played earlier this season. Ball control, kind of doing that thing. So there's just too many uncertainties going on in that Cleveland-Denver game that at least Damien Harris is a known commodity. But keep an eye on it, because late week, if that injury flares up again and they're thinking he's going to be limited or can't go, probably you have till Thursday afternoon to kind of see the injury reports and make that decision.
Yep. I like it. Alex, one thing too I wanted to get your thoughts on. Kevin and I talked on it a little bit there on the Friday show, coming off of Jalen Hurts, things like that. And I just kind of want to give you a blind player comparison here and kind of get your thoughts there. And we're going to compare Jalen Hurts' sophomore season, which is going on right now, and his current pace over a 16-game span, right? So what he's projected to do just on his current pace and averaging that out over the course of 16 games. And we're going to compare that blindly comparison to another sophomore season out there from a quarterback that was in the MVP discussion last year. And a lot of folks would consider him a elite level type of quarterback in the league, right? So, and I go through it, right? So right now, the way that Jalen's pacing out to do his 16-game pace, just over 3,900 yards, right around 800 yards rushing, 21 touchdowns through the air, 10 interceptions, 10 to 11, somewhere right in there, and about 13 rushing touchdowns. The quarterback that we're comparing that to in their sophomore season was a guy that threw for just over 3,000 yards, ran the ball for just over 500 yards, 18 touchdowns through the air, 10 interceptions, and 9 rushing touchdowns. If you had to pick one of those, which one do you like?
First off, I think I know the quarterback, the second-year quarterback.
Okay.
And then I don't know that the comparison's fair, because if it is the quarterback that I think, he has improved vastly in the point where he had like historically bad completion percentage and has worked his tail off to play in an AFC championship game last year. Am I on the right track?
You are on the right track.
So I don't know that that's exactly fair because Josh Allen was god awful his first 2 years. I mean, terrible his first 2 years. And really, really put it together, did a ton of off-season work working on his footwork, his decision-making, his passing, his delivery. So knowing what I know, I would rather have the Josh Allen trajectory than the Jalen Hurts numbers. But point taken, right? Like point taken that Jalen Hurts is maybe a little bit ahead of where Josh Allen was at this point. But I still think if you go and we map this out year 3 and year 4, Josh Allen is a completely different quarterback than he was year 1 and year 2. Whereas Jalen Hurts, I think Jalen Hurts is what he is because he got into the league, as a little bit older. I think he's surrounded by not as much talent. Buffalo's done a good job of surrounding talent around Josh Allen, and they continue to do that. So your point is valid in that year 1 and year 2, Jalen Hurts, I think, is the better quarterback, but this would be something very interesting to discuss when we see Jalen Hurts year 3, year 4, compared to what Josh Allen is year 3, year 4.
Right. Well, and that's where that all stemmed from, was the standpoint of a lot of the things being said after that Thursday night game and a lot of the conversation, the narrative going on there, that, it's one of those that folks are just kind of not, and really the point I was trying to make with that blind player comparison was the fact that you see guys drastically improve from year to year, and you hit a lot of those points on the head that, Buffalo went out and got an alpha wide receiver 1 type of deal. And Devante Smith could be that. He very well could be, but he's still young. And versus having a guy like Stephon Diggs, who was a more mature player, had been in the league a few years, knew the game, knew how to play, wasn't still adjusting to some of the speed type of things there. So just some of those types of things. But it was very interesting comparison because I remember folks and a lot of the things that folks were talking about when Josh Allen was going into that third year that, he's a guy that just can't complete the deal. Stephon Diggs was a 6th, 7th round pick in a lot of cases that year because, he'll get some yardage, but he's going to be so inconsistent, and Josh Allen's not going to be able to find him deep, and he proved them all wrong. So
and Josh Allen, again, historically bad completion percentage. I mean, I think his completion percentage was only
58 that year.
Yeah, brutal. I mean, that's brutal in the NFL. So, Josh Allen did a lot of work. The ceiling was, the ceiling was there. The only reason I really know this, I was listening to the radio today, and it just so happened that they were talking about Josh Allen in depth in the 15 minutes that I was listening. But yeah, I mean, he was bad, and the improvement was made. But I don't know though. The other thing that Josh Allen has going for him is that he plays on a team that has a defense,
right? And
so there's not a lot that's asked of him. And when you're not being asked to go and win games, by yourself, they play a little bit freer, and then they go out and do it anyways. So that I think is a different, that's a different animal. When that pressure's not on you, I mean, I feel like right now the weight of the entire Eagles team is on Jalen Hurts' shoulders because their defense is so banged up. They have no running game. Their wide receivers aren't, doing anything. And part of that is Jalen Hurts anyways, and how he's playing the position. But, I mean, if Jalen Hurts has a bad game, then the Eagles aren't going to win. Conversely, if Josh Allen has a bad game, they still have a shot.
Right.
Because
the defense
they've got other
dudes. And all of that, sure. Unless Derrick Henry's on the field running loose. But,
in which case, but they could have won that game. If he didn't lose his footing, I mean, they're going in. So, the O-line, I mean, they can't keep anybody healthy there in Philadelphia. I don't know what's in the water. I mean, they ran Carson out of town, and, he was good. And look, we're seeing what he's doing in Indianapolis right now. He turned in a good performance this last week. Granted, they had the gauntlet to go through, and I am a Carson apologist, but that O-line banged up as anybody can be, and then they just don't have it. Their defense has so many injuries that they don't have it right now, and then they go away from basic principles of running the football. I mean, I understand that they were playing Tampa, and Tampa, will force you to throw the football. This last week, but how many times have we seen Miles Sanders be a non-factor this year through 6 weeks?
It's a pretty much a guarantee.
6 for 6,
exactly.
So much so that we retired him from being able to use him on the Pine. That's
right.
That's how much.
So I mean, that team goes as Jalen Hurts goes. I can tell you right now, in Josh Allen's case in Buffalo. That team doesn't have to play exceptionally well for them to win. Josh Allen can have an okay game and they can still win football games, where Jalen Hurts, if he has an okay game, they probably only lose by 2 touchdowns.
You may not be wrong there, but I like it. Any other thoughts, Kevin? Any other thoughts from going through that than what we talked about on Friday?
No, I mean, I think that kind of sums it up. It's bad play calling. Mm-hmm. It's really bad play calling, and we talked about that on Friday.
Sirianni is way over his head.
Yeah, Miles Sanders looked electric on a couple of those carries in the second half, and you could hear the Eagles fans, right? They're begging for them to run the ball, and they'd get a couple gashes, and then. My biggest – this is a pet peeve of mine, and I understand part of why the NFL does it, but Miles Sanders gets the Eagles down inside the 5-yard line, and then Jalen Hurts runs it in and acts like he did all the work. Dude, you haven't done squat. You didn't do squat. Miles Sanders did his best in such limited workload. Why not reward the guy that just got you – the last 50 yards down the field and give him a couple cracks at the end zone? Like, it's frustrating, like, just for him. Because if Miles Sanders were on a different team, I think all of us would have a much different perception of who Miles Sanders is in the fantasy realm.
Okay.
But the Eagles just completely just ignore him. Like, he's like the redheaded stepchild underneath the stairs.
That brings up a great point. How much more valuable now is Zach Ertz?
I think his value might stay the same, and only because he was getting used. Yeah, there's just so many weapons, but he was getting used, caught a couple touchdowns, was able to fill in there in Philadelphia. Now he's going to a more high-powered offense, so he might have some more opportunities at times, but it's going to be easier for him to disappear also because you have Christian Kirk, because you have Rondell Moore, Nuke Hopkins, AJ Green, who's kind of had a bit of a resurgence this year. I mean, he's sitting at like wide receiver 35, and you drafted him in like the 13th round. Like, it's good return on value. So I like Ertz with the Cardinals. You can actually play him each week instead of him kind of playing second fiddle. So that helps a little bit as far as being comfortable in playing him. But there are enough weapons in Arizona that it is if you have to, you have to. But at times, it's still hard to push play, knowing that Kyler doesn't necessarily feed the tight end. The tight end just kind of gets added in when Kyler has nothing else.
Yes, I would agree. Our boy on
Schultz, yep. We had a bunch of Schultz.
Yep. Giving the shout out to Dalton Schultz. Cassius Stylist is agreeing with you, Kevin. It's so frustrating when they don't reward the RB in those scenarios.
And some teams do, and some teams don't, right? The Colts seemingly don't. They play Jonathan Taylor, and then if you get inside the 5-yard line, at least up till this point, it seems like the Colts have been taking Jonathan Taylor out. The Cowboys do a pretty good job of rewarding Zeke, right? They know that Zeke's their goal line back. The Washington football team has struggled with that in the little bit of momentum that they've gotten with Gibson, and now he's dinged up a little bit more, but he'd get him down there, and then they do something else.
Derrick Henry just says, we're not going to get into a goal line situation. I'm just going to break off a 75-yarder and get in the end zone.
and when he does, there's absolutely zero competition for other touches. Like, you don't have to worry about anyone else getting red zone touches. It's going there.
Going Derrick Henry.
I mean, even Tampa Bay did it, right? Tampa Bay did it against the Eagles. As much as I wanted Tom Brady to pass the ball for my own selfish financial reasons, Fournette got him down the field, and then they let him punch it in the end zone twice. Like, they didn't take him out and put Rojo in. Tom Brady didn't QB sneak it from the 1-yard line, which he can do.
Certainly didn't let Gio get on the field.
So it's just some teams do it and some teams don't. It's frustrating as hell when you have a guy on your fantasy roster and the team decides, nah, good job, go get some Gatorade. We're going to have someone else finish it off for you. It's like,
Thanks for doing all the work between the 20s.
Right.
One more coming in there. That's Anuna, I think is how you say that on YouTube. What's good? I just traded Waller, Justin Tuck, and Zach Moss for Kamara and Boswell. I have Kyle Pitts to replace Waller. Thoughts? We don't get many
kicker trades.
Yes, we don't get many of those around here.
To hell with the kicker. I mean, Tucker's always a nice piece to have, but kickers are so interchangeable week by week that it almost doesn't matter. So Waller and Ernest.
Find one playing inside.
Yeah, I mean, Waller and Zach Moss for Kamara. I mean, I like it. Waller outside of week 1 has been rather lackluster, which means I'm due to play him in some league coming up where he's going to go bonkers and just screw me over. So that is what it is. But I like the trade. I mean, you got the best player in the deal, which is Kamara. And anytime you can get the best player in the trade, you're sitting pretty.
Yeah.
And maybe with the bye week, maybe the Saints are going to, have that heart-to-heart conversation with Jameis Winston and say, hey, can we not forget about Alvin Kamara? for just a little bit. Like, let's get the ball in his hands. Let's find ways to get Kamara involved and try and get back to
get
what
him in
he
the
was.
damn end zone. Like, quit taking out and letting Taysom Hill run it in. Like, that's the biggest thing with Kamara too, right? Like, yes, you missed the catches, but he's seeing enough work on the ground that if he were to get rewarded, the Saints, another team who hasn't, if he were to get rewarded with getting the team down there and letting him punch it in the end zone, it goes a lot further, right? But when you're taking him out because you're inside the 5 and then Taysom Hill does, his wildcat scramble off to the right and go score, like that's frustrating as Kamara owners. And I have a lot of Kamara in dynasty leagues, and I just pull my hair out.
Yes.
But I like the trade.
So do I.
Yeah, I like the trade too.
Our boy chiming in, LOL, let's talk about rewarding the RB.
Right?
How about the Seahawks against the Patriots in Super Bowl
49. 49? 49.
That could be. My
49.
math and everything else
49.
is off.
XL's
We'll go
50,
49.
IX is 9, so it would be the 9 before the 50. 49.
Sure. We'll go with that. So I
But
like
yes,
it.
you give Marshawn the ball.
Yes.
And my Georgia Bulldogs were guilty of this back in 2000.
But then, guys, we don't get to see the meltdown of Richard Sherman on the sideline looking at what the hell just happened. I mean, one of the most iconic photos or videos of all time is Richard Sherman losing his mind because they threw the football on the 1 yard line.
Yeah, I still don't think he's ever going to forgive Pete Carroll for that one.
No, I mean, I don't think he played for him much after that.
No, I don't think so either. Cassius Stylus, this one's an interesting question in here. How often do you think players think about their fantasy performances? Like most majority could care less, but there's got to be at least got to be some that at least have it cross their mind. Austin Eckler is a guy that absolutely thinks about it.
I think you would be surprised at the number of players that know about their fantasy numbers. Think about you guys remember a couple weeks ago, Tyreek off, right? He said Cheetah's back, right? That was what he said. Post-game interview, he said, shout out to all my fantasy owners, Cheetah's back. Like that was what he said in just coming off of like a 200-yard performance, 200, and he had 2 or 3 touchdowns, whatever it was. But he said, shout out to all my fantasy owners for sticking with me, Cheetah's back. Like that was the first thing that he said when asked about his performance. So yeah, there's the Daniel Carlson interview. Like these guys are very much aware of fantasy. It's actually kind of one of those weird things where it's like encouraged because the NFL sanctions it through their official thing, but at the same time, like it kind of blurs the lines of I know that these guys, they can't gamble on fantasy, they can just play for fun, but you know that most guys don't. Not when you've got that kind of coin hanging around.
I almost wonder, we ask the skill position players all the time, right? Because they're the one putting up the numbers, but there's 40 other guys on these rosters.
O-line, D-line.
Yeah.
They impact the game just as much as that running back.
Exactly. Like, and I think that we're just asking the wrong type of player, right? Like, I am a Todd Gurley truther till the day I die, but he is a anti-fan. Like, I don't give a damn about your fantasy football team. And how many times did he? He went down inside the 10, inside the 5, because he understood the mechanics of the game. And yeah, it sucked because you didn't get that touchdown. And we've touched on this before. Shame on all you people who bash players for doing the right thing for the game. Yes, it doesn't help fantasy, but these guys are making the right business decision at that point. Just because you don't like it, deal with it.
Playoff bonuses and all that. Like there's money tied to it.
These guys are well aware, whether it's fantasy performance or how it ties into their performance bonuses, that type of thing. These guys, they have people chirping in their ear about this.
Right. You think about the fact that these guys know their own Madden ratings, things like that. Like they're paying attention to these things. And to the point that even if they aren't necessarily paying attention to it from a fantasy perspective, these guys' contracts are tied to performance bonuses. And so, more often than not, when they hit certain metrics on those performance bonuses, they're getting paid on those things, which again, a lot of those performance bonuses will tie into a lot of fantasy production. So better production that gets you paid tends to get better production for fantasy and kind of back and forth there.
Also this, if you're not the quarterback or the head coach or a coordinator, you have a ton of free time throughout the course of a day because, say a wide receiver, right? They need to learn a handful of new concepts each week. And then they've got practice for 2 hours, maybe treatment for a little bit. And then they're at home playing Madden or just checking out fantasy football stuff. Like I know a couple guys who have been fortunate enough to play in the league. The amount of free time that they have throughout the course of any given day is unbelievable. If you think they put in an 8-hour day each day, you are sorely mistaken. Outside of quarterback and head coach and coordinators, there are 52 other guys on the roster that have an unbelievable amount of free time. So they have interests.
Yeah, they hit the weight room, right? They go through and go see a trainer, get a massage, get stretched out, that type of thing. But there's time, and they know they're not dummies.
I like this one. Cassius Stylus saying he saw Daniels Carson at the fight back and in July and figured it was a sign to pick him up this year. Probably a good call. So
Carlson beat himself, right? That was the whole thing in his press conference. He hit that game winner, and he was like, "Yeah, I actually lost in fantasy this week, and it was because I hit that game winner because I was playing myself in that league, whatever league it was." The guy he was playing had Daniel Carlson, so I know that they, obviously they're going out there to win football games, but they're very acutely aware of what's going on in fantasy football.
Absolutely, and
especially when you think about it too, how much the game of fantasy football brings attention to the league, because for a lot of fans out there, if they didn't have player X or player Y or player Z on their fantasy roster, well, there's a good chance they may not even look to see what a box score looked like or what that looked like or have really awareness of that. So it does a good job of also spreading the awareness of the players that aren't necessarily like on our home team, things like that. So
I've actually drawn the line. I refuse. I'm a big hockey fan. I refuse to play fantasy hockey because I still want to be a fan of the sport. Whereas I can't watch football the same anymore because I have so many individual rooting interests in any given game. And then, my buddies and I, we do props on certain games. So like, I can't just enjoy an NFL game anymore because I have so many other things that I'm thinking about and things that I would like to happen. So I've drawn a hard line that I will not do fantasy hockey. I am in a fantasy NBA league, of which I know nothing about, but I still managed to lose in the semifinals last year of this league. So I'll probably end up fighting my way back into that one as well. But I'll play fantasy basketball.
What helps with football is you join more leagues. And don't get me wrong.
No, I do.
Because then your player pool expands, right?
Right.
And so then you're going to take some wins, you're going to take some losses, but you're able to watch the game and not care as much now. Like between last year and this year, I guess the one blessing of, the pandemic is doing so many different leagues that I can watch games on Sunday and I don't give a crap about the fantasy teams because I know that, yeah, it helps me in one, but it hurts me in another. So I'm not going to worry about it until Sunday night, looking into Monday. And then I really start rooting specifically in that Monday night game.
Right. When you enter the Monday night game going, I need player A to score this much, but they can't score this much unless this player does this and then this player does this.
Right.
And you start having this whole algorithm.
Beautiful mind. Yeah. Yes. You get the whiteboard out. You start connecting with the string.
Exactly.
I like it. Alrighty. Couple other comments here. So Cassius Silas saying that he didn't get the picture with Dak over there. Rock Out on YouTube saying, asking, should I drop Corey Davis, Kirk, Callaway, Bateman? Needs a tight end, Schultz, or don't play tight end. He's 5-1 right now. So picking up Schultz, I'd probably be looking to.
I'd keep Gabe.
See,
Callaway's the
that's
guy I'm
one that
probably
I would
targeting for a drop.
Callaway or Bateman would be one of the two guys that I'd drop and grab the tight end. Yeah, rack
Callaway-
up the wins. Rack up the
Callaway,
wins.
Yeah, you need to rack up the wins.
Like Bateman looks nice, but we still have zero idea of what he's actually going to be doing. So
although
get the
our
wins.
boy's saying that Schultz has a bye this week. Thank you for chiming
So
in.
drop one of
that's
those guys
fine.
and pick up a tight end.
Yeah. That's what he's asking here. Is do I drop one of these
he's saying
guys
that
to
Schultz
get
is
a
on
tight
a
end?
bye.
Yeah,
Okay, yes, you drop one of them to get a tight end. Callaway would be my target.
Man, but Callaway has such potential upside. Like the dude went bananas 2 weeks ago. I would probably go Bateman. Yeah.
Bateman.
All right, there we go. Consensus is Bateman on that one. Our boy chiming in, when I got into fantasy football, what was 2 years ago now, actually got me back into football. He hadn't watched it since the Broncos took home the trophy. That's awesome.
I wish I hadn't watched football since the Broncos took home the trophy. So that was a nice memory.
Gotcha. And Rockout did say that he's got got tight end Schultz on bye. So yeah. The consensus was for you, Rockout, to drop Bateman if you need to go out and get a tight end there.
Get your Seals Jones.
Yeah,
He's
that would be
still
a great
out there.
pickup. Yeah, and he's not rostered in a ton of leagues, so that's a pretty good streaming option there.
He was very helpful last week. I can tell you that much.
All right, so Bopucks on YouTube is saying he just traded away Mike Evans to receive Ridley. Big win. I like it. I like it
because of the volume. Like Ridley, and we've talked about this before. Ridley's seeing the targets, guys. Like Ridley's seeing 11 targets a game. Yes, him and Matt Ryan haven't quite connected yet, but that leads me to hope that we are on the cusp of big Calvin Ridley type games. The Falcons are not good enough to ignore him, and eventually him and Matt Ryan will get on the same page, and you will see a booming performance, hopefully this week, because I need him to show up in my home league. And I also traded for him in a work league. So I like it. Mike Evans is good certain weeks, and certain weeks he disappears. So at least with Ridley, you'll see some consistency.
And it's important to note that Ridley's absence in the London game was not injury related. It was a personal
issue.
Yeah. So it's not like you're getting a guy who's coming back off of a physical injury at least. But Ridley's good. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with having either one. That feels like a pretty kind of a like for like trade, but you probably get a little more upside with Ridley than you do Mike Evans, just because we're starting to see Antonio Brown start to hawk some balls his way there in Tampa.
And you got Chris Godwin, and you've got Gronk coming back there. So I like that. I like the Ridley side better on that one. Yeah, absolutely. Rock out saying, should I pick up Tannehill, Tua, or Winston? He's got Josh Allen on a bye.
Kevin, you got to get here at 10 o'clock. We talk about these things.
That's all right. Kevin mentioned Tannehill earlier on when we were talking some of the waiver wires and some of the streams. I'll let you kind of give your 2 cents on that one real quick.
Sorry, going back to this here real quick so I can get my information. I think it's between Tannehill and Tua. Jameis just still scares me. And yes, his good weeks have been pretty good where he's found Callaway or Juwan Johnson 2 different times in the back of the end zone. And yes, that helps. Those are all wonderful things. But I think 2 is the play here. Like 300 yards in London, had the touchdowns. Him and Jalen Waddle have that natural connection that seemed to revive itself a little bit. So I think for this week, I'd go 2-1, then Tannehill, then Winston.
I like it. Alrighty, so guys, we're going to answer this one in here, and I think we'll wrap it up here. Bopox on YouTube, 14-man lineup is Kyler, Jefferson, Ridley, A.J. Brown, Hawkinson, Gibson, CEH, Tim Patrick, A.J. Green, Jamal Williams, Alex Collin, Khalil Herbert. Who should I trade away for a solid RB, or who should I target at least?
Well, CEH right now is on the IR, so That's not good. As we've learned, Collins is dealing with a little bit of an injury.
Right.
Khalil Herbert, I think, is still viable, right?
He is, but Damien Williams should come back, and you'll probably see a split backfield going forward until you see David Montgomery come off the thing. So Khalil Herbert's a flex play at best going forward. I think you saw him pop that one game. So Gibson's also dealing with that stress fracture in the shin, and we saw him miss time there. So,
I mean,
I don't know that you have. I mean, it depends on where you want to sacrifice, because I don't know that you're going to get a solid, consistent RB without having to give up at least one of your receivers and something, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a CEH and AJ Brown, right? And go from there. And then at that point,
I mean,
Aaron Jones, maybe, right? Like, he hasn't necessarily he boomed week 2 and another. He's been consistent. He's been steady. So Aaron Jones might be a guy to target if you're willing to move off of something like that. You might, if the team you're trading for, I mean, and that's all shots in the dark, but something in that Aaron Jones manner would be what I would look at. Or David Montgomery, who is hurt right now. And yes, you don't need another hurt running back on your roster, but if you're trading CEH for David Montgomery, I think Montgomery's usage once he gets back is going to be a little bit more consistent than what CEH is. So that could help you if that's something that you're looking for. But to go much above that route, you're going to have to give up multiple pieces to get a type of player that I think you're looking for.
Do you think, and maybe that depends too on your league and that kind of stuff, but do you think that you could potentially try and get like an AJ Brown and CEH for, a guy like a James Robinson, something like that?
That wouldn't be a bad flip.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of right there on the cusp of what
right? Yeah, I think something like that. Again, it's a safer floor.
Isn't James Robinson just like the definition of a solid running back right now?
Absolutely.
That's just a solid running back.
And he's right there around fringe RB1, and folks weren't married, aren't married to that draft capital, so you don't have to overcome that barrier that you get a lot of times. And so that's kind of one of those that I kind of like that move there. AJ Brown, you're still going off of the potential there. CEH. Popped a little bit before he got injured there. So, I mean, you could potentially try and flip something like that. But that'd probably be about the highest I think you could probably flip for an RB off of that without really deconstructing that roster. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, cool. Last question here, guys, and then we're going to sign out. Rock out, going back to his questions earlier where he was talking about the tight end. He, so far on his waivers, he's got Kmet, Mo Alley-Cox, and Uzma at tight end. I like Mo Alley-Cox on this one.
Yeah, I'd like Mo Alley-Cox a little bit better. Let me look up.
And he's the one I don't like because they're going up against the Niners.
Yeah, that's
fair enough.
reason.
The way I ranked that one, though, is I got Mo Alley-Cox, Uzma, Kmet, if I'm ranking that one.
The only reason I like Mo Alley-Cox is because Carson Wentz knows that tight ends exist.
Correct.
Justin Fields, I don't think understands that he can make more than one read. Actually, he really doesn't have time to make more than one read. So Kmet has been kind of a disappointment. So the reason why I like Mo Alley-Cox is because Carson Wentz can utilize the tight end. And he's been, again, a serviceable component, but
man. I think I like CJ Uzma. I think that game against Baltimore is going to be a gritty game. You're not going to see a bunch of big play potential, and they're just going to need something a little bit out of the ordinary to kind of make it work. I don't like Kmet against the Rams. And like I said, Alley-Cox has had a couple decent weeks here lately, but I don't like him going up against that Niners defense. So I think the biggest upside play you have is Uzma just take the points and kind of move on with it since you're already 5-1 in that league.
Gotcha. Yeah, part of the reason I go back to Mo Alley-Cox, though, is T.Y. Hilton got banged up again in that one, right? Paris Campbell got banged up with the foot injury and missed the rest of the game. So you got two potential wide receivers that are going to be down. So you'll be seeing Michael Pittman out there. You'll be seeing probably some Naheem Hines run out of this one, Jonathan Taylor. And then for the passing game, though, I think you're going to see some work funnel through Mo Alley-Cox, just based off that wide receiver core being a little banged up there. So that's what kind of moves him a little bit in front for me. Sounds like you got a little bit of a mixed bag there, Rock out. But what's up, Alex?
I was going to say that game feels like possessions will be at a premium. Like,
yeah, I would agree with you. Yep, Zach Pascal will be there. Zach Pascal and Tim Patrick are kind of in that same ballpark, it seems like, where they're always that next man up, and they perform for you when you need them to be that next man up type of thing. And then our boy saying Pittman is such a sleeper. Not at this point. He kind of broke out there a little bit and then fell back to sleep. So maybe he's back to being a sleeper. Who knows there? But all righty, guys. Well, any final thoughts for the listeners and the viewers out there?
Good luck this week. Navigate, ask questions, do your homework, because between injuries and buys, we got a tough week ahead of us. So there's going to be some players who you're forced to play who you may not love, but understand it's just 1 week. And if you're able to navigate through probably one of the harder sets of bye weeks that we have here in week 7, you should be looking good here going forward.
Absolutely. Alex, what's your final thoughts out there?
Yeah, just find something else to do on Thursday night. I'm just kidding. That's going to be – I'm still going to watch just because it'll be the first, time that I'll be able to watch the Broncos. But oh, boy, Thursday night's going to be rough. Pay attention to those injury reports. If you are stuck playing somebody on that Thursday night game, you really, really need to pay attention. If you're going to try to target a Ernest Johnson or questions about Baker, just set yourself a reminder for 90 minutes before kick so that you can check the inactives before they go.
I like the advice there, guys. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in and watching and or listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. You can hit us up on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Good Old Boys FF. One of the best ways to help support this show is to head over to YouTube, click the subscribe button, ring the bell. We do the show live for you 3 times a week right now, Tuesday nights, 11 p.m., Friday nights, 11 p.m. Eastern, and Sunday mornings at 11:45 a.m. Eastern time. For Kevin and Alex, I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe.